Alright, what's happening, y'all, man? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming with all of the important Washington football team OTAs, notes, and analysis. We have to talk about players that are returning from injury. How do they look? Starters and depth chart projections. Who stood out the most in the first day of OTAs? And some number changes. And in between all of that, is Landon Collins going to end up playing linebacker or strong safety? Who's QB1? All of that, man. We're about to get into all of that. So without further ado, make sure you please subscribe and hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get more content like this one, more informative and opinionated videos like this one. Also, stay tuned for all of the film sessions I'm doing on the rookie class, including undrafted free agent Jared Patterson. So make sure you stay up to date on all of that. Make sure you subscribe, check out my playlist, and stay tuned. Let's get it. All right, so before we get into all of like the great details of training camp, first of all, Washington football team president Jason Wright led the team in a moment of silence before practice on the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. Both Ron Rivera and Jason Wright addressed the team this morning and honored Floyd and the fight for equality. Also, big note that like a lot of people may not have noticed or don't necessarily care about. I do. I care about the safety of our players. That's one of my biggest priorities. If you remember last year, Ron Rivera had the Washington staff install a new drainage system on the practice field. And as of right now, it's holding up well because there was significant rainfall on Monday. And in previous years, that would have meant that Tuesday's practice today would have been moved indoors into the practice bubble. But not anymore. Because of Ron Rivera, the fields look dry. Everybody can make their usual cuts. No injuries. We were able to avoid all of the slick hydroplaning, water-like puddles and mud everywhere. Shouts out to Ron Rivera for prioritizing his players' safety, man. They're all assets. You're spending millions of dollars on all of them. Why wouldn't you want to protect them the best that you can? I'm surprised that like things like this take so long to change. Why is this not like an automatic thing that all teams do from the very beginning? It's so crazy. But thank goodness we're one of the very few teams whose head coach cares enough. Also, 86 of the 90 players on this entire roster showed up to OTAs. Again, they are not mandatory. And Ron Rivera has stressed this. Nothing is mandatory until mandatory mini camps and training camp. Anything before that is voluntary. And so that's great to hear that 86 of the 90 guys showed up. That shows that this team is passionate about getting better. And Ron Rivera took notice. He said, guys understand we have a fairly new team to get together, to work together, to develop. I'm really grateful they're here. And I'm really happy as a fan that all of them feel the need to be there. Again, 90's not all of them, but if you're curious, Chase Young and Montez Sweat were not there. I'm assuming they're working on their own. Charles Leno just recently had a new kid, so of course he wasn't there. They expected him to not be there. And then oddly, Steven Sims Jr. wasn't there, which pretty much just shows the writing on the wall. I don't know if they just went ahead and told him like, yeah, you're more than likely not going to make the team, so you might as well stay home. I doubt that's the situation. So that only leaves me with he just didn't see it as a priority to show up, which means like with him being on the outside looking in already, it's really looking bleak for him. I highly doubt Steven Sims Jr. makes the roster. And this definitely says something loudly to Rivera and the rest of the coaching staff. That everybody else is here except for Chase Young and Montez Sweat, who you don't worry about. Charles Leno because of a specific emergency situation. And then it's just Steven Sims for reasons unknown. I don't know, maybe he has a perfectly good reason that hasn't been reported yet, but that's a really bad look, Steven Sims, I'm not gonna lie. Especially after what you did last season. First up, I want to talk about a lot of the players returning from injury, because that's great news. And we already talked about the field, and it's great to hear that we sustained no injuries in practice today. I'm pretty sure the field had a lot to do with that. But most notably, Landon Collins suffered an Achilles injury last season, missed like the majority of the season in an injury and all of that, but he was back at practice today and he looked very good moving around. He's not ready to necessarily start and play a football game today, but he's good enough to go out there and practice. Probably not to be able to take contact, but to do the things that you do in OTAs, individual drills and things like that, and run around, Landon Collins looks good enough to do that. And he even said it himself, he expects himself to be ready for week 1. He's definitely on pace to play week 1, whether he's starting or whatever. We're going to get into that. And then Kelvin Harmon missed all of last year with a knee injury, and he was also out there looking really good. No knee brace, no anything. You also have Brandon Sheriff out there. Even with the ugly contract situation that's going on, he was at voluntary OTAs, trying to gel with the team and everything, putting in work. He's recovered nicely, even though he ended the season fairly healthy, so that's not a surprise. Kyle Allen, who I'm pretty shocked he's already ready to go. He had a season-ending injury last season, as y'all remember, and he looked really good out there as well. And then DeShazer Everett with his pec injury, where he missed the final few games of the season. He was out there fully healthy. Matt Ioannidis is back. He had that bicep injury. Sadiq Charles had that knee injury. He was out there really good. Never got hurt. Again, no injury. So even these guys that were worried about, like Antonio Gandy Golden or Sadiq Charles, who just can't seem to stay healthy, everybody looked good today in practice. No worries, no injury bugs, no nothing. Shouts out to the new training staff. Shouts out to Ron Rivera and everybody that has something to deal with why we're not having as many injuries as we once did. And speaking of Landon Collins, is interesting because he was with the DBs while everybody was broken up into groups going through drills. And DBs coach Chris Harris had him doing strong safety-like movement. So it looks like he's practicing. It looks like he's getting some mental reps in to be a strong safety. And the reporters even asked him about a potential move to linebacker. And then he said he was laughing at it, and he emphasized that he's a safety, but he did note that if the team wanted to move him to linebacker, he's open to it in packages. So maybe not full time, but if there's a lot of the time that Jack Del Rio wants him in the box, which is where he's best at anyway, then he's willing to do that. So it's good to hear that he's not 100% completely stubborn about it. Moving on to starters and depth chart projections. First up, the starting offensive line today was really weird, eye-opening, but don't read too much into it at all. But from left to right, we had Sadiq Charles at starting left tackle. Charles Leno again isn't there. Wes Schweitzer at starting left guard over Eric Flowers. That's very interesting. Chase Roullier at center, of course. Brandon Sheriff at right guard, of course. But Cornelius Lucas starting at right tackle over Samuel Cosme. And that just goes to show that Samuel Cosme is as raw as I believe he is. He's not ready to start today. Maybe week 1. He'll show us something through training camp and things like that. But as of today, Samuel Cosme is not ready to start an NFL game. Cornelius Lucas easily is. And with Charles Leno not there, with Cornelius Lucas starting at right tackle, I guess Sadiq Charles is the emergency tackle. Even though it's still interesting that Sadiq Charles is starting over Samuel Cosme. I mean, that says something. That's not necessarily a bad thing on Samuel Cosme. That's more encouraging to me about Sadiq Charles, about the fact that not only is he fully recovered, but he looks good enough to start at left tackle as of today with Charles Leno gone. And the fact that he's versatile enough to where they're trying to get him to compete at guard, to potentially start at guard, but when they need him to, he can also play left tackle, which he did for LSU, arguably one of the best offenses in college football history. He was a starting left tackle for that. So of course, it's only natural that he could step in that tackle anyway. But the Wes Schweitzer over Eric Flowers is probably the most surprising all of this to me. Also, the QB depth chart as of right now is obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick QB1, Taylor Heineke QB2, Kyle Allen QB3, and Steven Montez is QB4. Ryan Fitzpatrick is clearly QB1, and what I love right now is that they're going through the beginning stages of talking to each other, communicating, and gaining chemistry. It's not just about throwing passes. You have to talk it out. You have to relay what you want out of your receivers in certain situations, certain routes, where you want them to look for the ball, what trajectory the ball may come in at, how deep you want them to run routes. And Ryan Fitzpatrick also said in his presser that like he's the type of quarterback that he's going to throw it to a spot. So whether the receiver is there or not, it doesn't matter. He's going to throw it to that spot. He's not necessarily throwing it at the receiver. So he demands that the receivers be where they're supposed to be. So that's a really interesting note right there. And then also, I mean, he was even talking individually to Logan Thomas and basically telling them, like, I want you to run this route this way. I know you usually run it that way, but I need you to run it this way for me, and I should be able to hit you on it every time type of thing. So that's great. I love the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick's being very aggressive and assertive and taking charge and being a true leader that he is and making sure that they're getting on the same page early. I mean, with him going from team to team to team to team, he already knows the process and exactly what it takes to gain chemistry with his receiving group and skill positions, including tight ends and things like that. So I love the fact that he's bringing that veteran presence and leadership with him. I mean, it's day one OTAs. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Tell me what you want me to do, and we're going to figure this out early. I love that. Also, Our boy Jamin Davis, first round pick 19th overall. Our more athletic version of Levante David, hopefully. Or you can call him a Darius Leonard, a healthy version of Darius Leonard, actually faster too. He lined up at middle linebacker in the team's base 4-3 defense. Granted, we run nickel most of the time. At least last year we did. I don't know, maybe with Jamin Davis here, maybe we'll run more 4-3, even though I doubt it. But either way, Jamin Davis is going to be on the field no matter what. Every down back. He's the Mike linebacker apparently in the 4-3 defense. Even though it's May, things can change. So don't read into it too much, but that is exciting to know that he will be the Mike linebacker in 4-3 potentially. That's the role that they want for him. Ron Rivera wants his next Luke Kuechly. And then of course, if we switch to nickel and dime packages, sub packages and things like that, he's going to be on the field that way as well, just as an off-ball outside linebacker. But it's really interesting to know that Cole Holcomb and John Bostic were getting outside linebacker work, Sam and Will, while Jamin Davis was clearly the Mike linebacker. And I hate John Bostic in coverage, so that's not going to last long at all. I'm guessing they just want bodies out there until like Shaka Toney and Khaleke Hudson are ready to take over. Maybe Cole Holcomb moves the Will. Maybe Shaka Toney or Khaleke Hudson, one of them emerges as our starting Sam. And John Bostic comes off the bench as a Mike linebacker, as a depth piece, if there's an injury or something like that. Because you don't want John Bostic as an outside linebacker. You don't want him covering tight ends. You don't want him covering running backs. You don't want him covering slot receivers. You don't want him covering anybody. So him and outside linebacker just sounds like they just needed bodies out there, and Shaka Toney and Khaleke Hudson just aren't ready yet, I guess. I don't know. And then also, DeShazer Everett was starting at free safety over Bobby McCain. I don't expect that to last long. I think Bobby McCain is definitely a better pure free safety, rangy center fielder type of guy than a DeShazer Everett. But also, you know, Chris Harris loves his versatile guys. That's why we brought in Darryl Roberts. That's why we brought back Kendall Fuller. That's also why we signed Bobby McCain, because I feel like he's that rangy free safety that this team has been needing for so many years. But he's also really good in the slot as well. But it's still interesting to see that DeShazer Everett was starting at free safety, maybe just because of his chemistry and communication with the rest of the defense, most notably Cameron Curl, who was starting at strong safety since Landon Collins didn't participate in team drills. I don't know. But I'm definitely expecting Bobby McCain to dethrone DeShazer Everett for that starting free safety spot. Or maybe even Jeremy Reeves at some point. I think Jeremy Reeves probably has the highest ceiling out of the three between DeShazer Everett, Bobby McCain, and Jeremy Reeves. But I think Bobby McCain is definitely the best day one starter. And DeShazer Everett is just like a dependable depth piece that can step in if need be. And then we're moving on to who stood out. Well, first of all, it's reported that John Bates, his strength and explosion coming off of the snap, he just popped the most. Like, it was a noticeable difference between him and every other tight end. When they're running the drills, when they're going at the sled, him coming off of the lines, exploding off of the snap, it was just different than the other guys. So that's great to hear, because I'm expecting him to be our day one tight end 2 to Logan Thomas. He can already block pretty well with the potential to get better with improved technique, and I think his receiving ability is definitely underrated. He's never going to be the fastest guy on the field, but which tight ends are, honestly? Other than Travis Kelce, who's really out here just separating on their own. Even George Kittle is getting schemed open by Kyle Shanahan, so I'm not too worried about that. The fact that his hands are really good, we've seen that in rookie mini camps and so far in OTAs, and the fact that he has this weird ability to contort his body whichever way he needs to pull in catches that should normally be out of range, but he just has a good reach and he's able to pull those in. So I'm really excited about John Bates. Also, De'Ami Brown looks a little different out there, looks a little different. You could say he had the play of the day against Troy Apke. We're going to dive a little bit more into that soon, but I also wanted to talk about Curtis Samuel. I've been hearing left and right from different reporters, from the coaching staff, that he just looks really fast. This receiving core as a whole is just way faster than the receiving core we've had in previous years, and Curtis Samuel is one of those guys that's leading the charge. He took a handoff and he looked extremely fast with that. He looks crisp with his route running and his ability to separate and everything like that. He's just a do-it-all type of guy, very versatile. So they're very excited about him. I am as well. But back to De'Ami Brown. Taylor Heineke threw a bomb down the field to De'Ami Brown. Troy Apke in coverage at corner, which is kind of interesting, really weird. They said Troy Apke played corner quite a bit today. I don't know, that's really interesting. But De'Ami Brown came down with it again. People are saying that was more than likely the play of the day. I was also hearing that Taylor Heineke had a great day. Other than a contested catch that he tried to squeeze in there to Isaiah Wright, which ended up getting batted up by DeShazer Everett and picked off by Derek Forrest. of course the DB group, anytime they make a play, they're super hyped. There was also a play where Kendall Fuller broke up a pass and they're just running up and down the field, yelling around like they run the play. So I love that from the DB group. I love the confidence. I love the trash talking. I love the competition. It's going to bring out the best in everybody. But yeah, Taylor Heinicke had a great day except for that one pass that got batted up and intercepted. And Steven Montez also had a fairly decent day, but he did have a fumble after holding the ball too long one play. Now I'm hearing De'Ami Brown's catch in traffic was crazy over Trey Apke. Po baby. Also, Samus Reyes stood out quite a bit. Like, he's an athletic freak and like people are seeing it. Like, it looks like he's arguably the most athletic guy on the field when he's on the field. But of course, he's a work in progress. Blocking, footwork, all of the technique and mental things still raw, still pretty sloppy. Definitely not ahead of John Bates in the depth chart so far, but he's definitely looking promising enough to where it looks like he should make the 53-man roster, which is very encouraging to me. Even though, honestly, even if he's not really deserving of a 53-man roster spot, with as many teams that wanted to sign him before he ended up choosing us, I'm pretty sure we won't even put him on practice squad because another team may just take him from him. But it's very encouraging to know that it actually looks like he will earn that third tight end spot and he deserves to be out there and to get true playing time on Sundays. Again, one of the most athletic players to ever touch the sport, period. According to his RAS score, the most athletic tight end to ever play the sport. It's just all about, can he get the technique, blocking, footwork things down, and will he be able to take a hit? There was also one play where he made a nice grab, but in a normal NFL game environment, he would have gotten blown up. But, you know, we're protecting the players, we're protecting each other, so the DBs didn't hit him. But in a normal NFL game scenario, he would have gotten blasted. I'm really interested in knowing, can he take those hits? We really won't know till preseason, honestly. But they said not only does he look really explosive and athletic, but he had a very nice twisting catch. So I'm loving the fact that I'm hearing that even though his hands are a little inconsistent right now, he's making a lot of great contorting contested catches right now. I mean, twisting his body, doing things that everybody just can't do. His ceiling is ridiculous. The things he's great at, you can't teach. You can't teach somebody to be that explosive, that athletic, to have that ability to twist your body to make crazy contested catches. You just can't teach that. The things he's bad at, you can teach, but it's going to take time. And there's no guarantee it's going to work out, but it's very encouraging to hear that he's getting better and better, and he already looks better than what he looked like at rookie minicamps. And then also, of course, Cam Sims is always going to stand out in off-season practices, training camps, and things like that. That happens every year. This time is no different. Made a nice adjustment in the air for a downfield catch with a greatly placed bomb from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Looks like they're growing some chemistry right there. Looks like Cam Sims' job may be pretty safe if he keeps going out there doing what he normally does. Just got to see it translate to NFL Sundays. And lastly, as far as who stood out, during rookie minicamps, Rivera compared Jared Patterson to Darren Sproles. And now that they're starting to finally get more people on the field, and it's not just him out there by himself like he was at rookie minicamps, a lot of people are agreeing that he looks like basically a stronger Darren Sproles. They're saying that he looks very quick. They're saying his footwork looks great. He's catching passes easily and even tiptoed his way down the sideline for a really good gain at one point. So great balance as well. So Jared Patterson is looking like that complete back, and I'm very excited because it sounds like he's going to be a huge upgrade over Peyton Barber. Not hating on Peyton Barber, but like Jared Patterson sounds like he could be our running back one if we just didn't already have Antonio Gibson. He sounds like he's going to end up being that good. So that 1-2 punch may end up being the best in the NFL, with J.D. McKissick as our third down back, and the only running back in the NFL last year who had more receiving yards than him was Alvin Kamara. Oh yeah, this three-headed monster as our running back group is about to be ridiculous. Also, lastly, number changes. I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but there have been some number changes. Samuel Cosmi is no longer 62. He went and grabbed Morgan Moses' 76 immediately. I mean, Morgan Moses was just released like less than a week ago, and Samuel Cosmi already scooped that number up, bro. He was not playing about that. Also, Isaiah Wright went from wearing number 84 to number 18, which I feel like is more appropriate. He's like a versatile returner, running back, wide receiver hybrid type of guy. Basically like Antonio Gibson, but more receiver, while Antonio Gibson is more running back. So 18 sounds about right. And then David Sharp went from 72 to 74. Not a big difference, but, you know, something to note for you to be aware of. Also, Eric Flowers is wearing 79 now instead of 77. So that's also fairly interesting, but it's not a huge difference. Not like Isaiah Wright going from 84 to 17 and Samuel Cosme scooping up that 76 immediately. That boy probably was the first one on the campus. He was like, I need that number right now. Also, last bit of information, the next OTA session with media members allowed will not be until June 2nd. Today's May 25th. So, I mean, I'm going to try to get as much news as I can and report it to y'all as to what's going on with OTAs and things like that. But today is in May 25th was the first time media had access to the practices, and the next time won't be again until June 2nd. Just to warn y'all. So, OTAs and information about OTAs, who's doing what, who looks good and all of those things. Don't expect much news coming out until June 2nd. And of course, when June 2nd comes, I'm going to have y'all with all of the information just like I did today. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please like it if you learned anything. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification every time I release an informative and opinionated video like this one. Like I said in the beginning of the video, be on the lookout for the film sessions for the entire rookie class, including our sole undrafted free agent, rookie running back Jared Patterson. Also, as always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Everybody that donates to the channel, really appreciate y'all. Big shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all as well. A special shouts out to my one All-Pro sponsor, Jaden. So, man, I really appreciate everything that y'all do, man. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.